Hello and welcome to the Biz Talk Live Show. Hi, I am your host, Shanté R. Roddy. Every week we come on and we share a new guest with you who is going to tell you her story. So we're so happy to have our new guest. Please sit back and relax. If you're joining the conversation, please drop a hi in the comment. Feel free to ask any questions that you have. If we don't get to it during the broadcast, we always follow up after the show. Please hit the like button. Better yet, if you love entrepreneurs and small business owners, hit the love button. So again, we are here, Biz Talk Live Show. We're here with Kymberlee Page. Hi, Kymberlee.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon. I'm excited to be here.
Good morning. She is the CEO of Breaking the Glass LLC, correct?
Yes, that is my company.
And we're so happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us about you, your company, what you do, and who you serve.
All right. So my name is Kymberlee Page. I've been in the IT and product management organizations for companies for the last 20 years. And I've noticed that is very limited to certain people. So when, I heard breaking the glass of like, hey, there's a glass ceiling for everyone, I started recognizing in my career that, people are limited to certain positions. I've been the only female in executive level positions in companies. And I'm like, why am I alone? What can I start to do differently to start bringing other people up? And as I started to talk with people would tell me like, well, I can't, and they won't let me. And kind of getting people to start changing their mind. Like, you can do whatever you want to do. We just change your approach, and let's start talking about that approach. How are you presenting yourself? How are you saying that I am right and the perfect person for this job? And so a few years ago, after I've been helping so many people over the years, someone was like, open your own company, Kim. Why don't you just do that? And I said, you know what? I should do this professionally. I should help people understand that everyone has a limitation of glass. Recently I've had a lot of new clients who are saying, well, I'm facing age discrimination and I'm not able to get this job. And I tell them, I'm like, hey, if you are not going for new jobs, if you are only going for the way that you used to 20 years ago, it's going to be different. Like, the whole approach has to change. Your resume is not the only thing that people look for anymore. And so just really kind of getting people to understand you need to do things differently. So that is what I've been doing for the last 2 years, and it's really taking off.
Okay, and so let's talk about that a little bit more, just to help give me some clarification. So is it that you help individuals in their career, whether it's in corporate America or entrepreneurship, or is your focus like helping them to transition from one job, one career, or one industry to another, or all of the above?
All of the above. So some of the things that I really do is I ask people, so one aspect about people that's never really considered in the career is your personality. So I ask people, I actually give them a Myers-Briggs personality test. I also ask them to kind of define the type of organization that they're going to work best in. So some people love to work in startup companies because they have the flexibility, they have the nimbleness, they can move around, they have lots of career opportunities. Some people like the older, more traditional companies. And a lot of people don't take time before they start applying for jobs to figure out what they like best. And then I've had a lot of clients who are introverts who are in extrovert positions, and they're like, I struggle every day. I come home and I hate my life. I hate my job. And we're like, well, this is not the ideal position for you. So I take a step back and say, let's define the perfect career for you. And then once we define that perfect career, now let's start working on getting that career for you. And then also my third thing is personal brand. So in this day and age, you have to have a personal brand. It's not have a resume or a cover letter. You need a LinkedIn profile. Depending on what your career is, you need a website. There's a lot of things that are needed.
Okay, so you said you went from IT to helping people get into their dream career.
Yes.
I think that is so interesting. Okay, so in the time that you were working in IT, you found the time to help people in their career, and then that led you to this?
Yes. So one thing in IT that people forget is the people factor. Like, yes, technology is 100%, but there's a people factor. And if you don't know how to use the systems that you're putting in place, if your team does not know how to build the system and communicate on what needs, then you fail. And so always been working on the people factor and making sure the solutions that my teams provide actually meet people's needs. And part of that, you start to discover like, well, I don't like my job, or I'm not happy with this. And so this is where that kind of, hey, aha, epiphany kind of hit me. I'm like, I can do more to help in this gap because I see it very clearly.
So what would you say for people? Because I heard you mention that, you know, people will say, well, and it's true, discrimination is out there. But how do you help people navigate around that? So especially in the age of technology, where it's not like it used to be. You used to could go walk into a job and literally just talk to the manager there. Now it's like everything is online. You're one out of thousands of people. How do people navigate that and make sure that they get seen, like they stand out, but at the same time that they, you know, break the barriers that sometimes come along with the discriminatory bias practices that are in corporate America?
Yeah, so there's a couple aspects of that. Like the first aspect is like, especially if someone feels like they're doing feeling discriminated against age, I talk to them about like, how are you applying for jobs? And 9 out of 10 times, the only thing they have is a resume. And so I asked them, I'm like, do you have a LinkedIn profile? Do you have any other social media? Do you have a website? Especially if you are like in marketing or sales, you really have to have a place out there. And if they don't, those are some things that I help them with a personal brand of like, let's build these things. And then now you can compete with the other people who have it because they're going to look at your skills and experience and say, you have skills and experience and you know how to utilize technology to your best advantage. And then they get jobs out the door. But until they start packaging themselves and meeting the needs of the clients, they keep on hitting these walls or hitting that glass ceiling. And that's what I really help people with.
Now, when you talk about branding yourself, I think that's so important. Can you elaborate a little bit, like for our audience? Because like sometimes it's not until people actually get into entrepreneurship that they're like, oh, I really need to establish a brand, or I need to update my resume. These are sometimes things that they don't even think about as a personal brand.
Yeah.
That you're separate and apart from the company that you work for, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's talk about that real quickly, about personal branding, what that means, what that looks like for a person, and how important that is.
Okay. So one thing as women, we have been told, let our work speak for itself. And, you know, we don't have to, it would be arrogant if you go and say, I did this, our work should do that. And that's probably the most dangerous thing for women to do. Because a man, and not all men, but most men are like, oh, I did this. It was successful. Look, see. So one, getting people to be confident enough to say, hey, I just did this and it was successful. And here's how my thought leadership or my leadership of the team or how we collaborated together and did that. That's number one. Number two, being able to speak to every single level of an organization. So I've worked at large organizations and sometimes a CEO would come and have meetings with everyone and I would ask some of my team, hey, let's go talk to the CEO. And they're like, oh, absolutely we can. Let's go. And learning to say, just because that's a title does not mean that that person is better than you. So let's start changing our approach and understanding you are just as valuable as he is in just different ways. Your contributions are still needed. And then last but not least, what makes you special? So let's start talking about the things that you do differently than anyone else, how you approach things differently than everyone else, and make sure that that's packaged in a way that can be reflected. So if I Google your name, I ask this to everyone, I'm going to Google you. What am I going to see? And sometimes they're like, well, you're not going to see anything. I'm like, well, let's change it. I do need to see some stuff, especially if you like are in more leadership positions. You should be blogging. You should be doing some stuff and really getting your experience and expertise out there for other people to utilize. So those are some things that I work on when people need to work on their brand.
That's good. I'm glad that you brought up Google because I say that a lot. And people would be surprised if they Google themselves. Like people have never Googled themselves to even know what's out there.
Yes.
But believe me that whether it's an employer or business partners, clients that you're going to work with, they are going to be searching Google. They're going to be searching social media outlets, and how you show up can determine whether or not you get that position, whether or not you get that contract or that
Absolutely.
client, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, hey, from a social media perspective, would your future employer be comfortable with what you're posting on social media? What are your privacy settings? Just making sure that everything that is associated with you reflects what you want.
Yes. So I would say it's how you show up. How are you showing up? Like on wherever you are, and especially online, because that is so true. I've seen people not get positions and opportunities because of what they had on their social media profile. So you need to understand that is something that people are definitely looking for, and just be conscious of that and be very aware that it can have an impact on you achieving your goals. So that is so good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I think that's one important aspect. And then two, how you actually look for that job. And so a lot of people skim over the job descriptions. And one thing that I tell people is that job description is going to be a good indication of the corporate culture and what they're really looking for. And it'll also tell you some of the expectations. So are someone who wants to work in a more flexible environment, you need to see words like flexibility. If you see words like we have tight deadlines and people have to multitask and people need to be able to do things, stop. That is not to be, it's not going to work for you. You need to start looking at that. So I actually have people talk about the job description that they want, and we actually look at that, and I start giving them indications of this is a kind of culture that is being indicated in this job. And a lot of people in interviews just prepare for the questions that they're going to be asked and not have questions themselves.
Exactly.
And I always tell people, I'm like, the first thing that we need to do is you need to come up with questions to make sure that this is a good fit for you as well.
Yes.
It's doing those things that has really started changing my clients' understanding. And then when they get the job, they're like, I never knew this was going to be the job for me. This is perfect. Oh my gosh, I never thought this. And just it's a blessing to be able to see people find that happiness. And I always tell them, tell other people the things that you've learned. And, I love to share this information too, so people can stop saying I can't and start saying I can.
Yeah, because you definitely can. And I think that that's so important about looking at the job description, because you're right. Like a lot of people, they skim over it and they're not really looking at, is this position, is this company a good fit for me and what I want to do? And I know I've looked at opportunities that will say you need to be a road warrior. To me, that's like a red flag for me, because I love to travel, but I have no interest in being a road warrior. That basically means that you're traveling 90 to 100% of the time, like nonstop. You may be on the road, you have one day to come back, take a shower, and you back on another plane.
Yes. No, I mean, and those are little things that people overlook, like travel. If you don't want to travel, you need to see 0 to 10% in the travel category. And also, a lot of new websites like Glassdoor and Indeed are actually giving you reviews of the company. Read those reviews. Those are also very critical and good indications. If they talk about the leadership is unclear, the leadership just overworks people, underpays, they're not lying sometimes. And so you have to take that with a grain of salt and make sure you put those in your questions when you're interviewing people.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about your perspective on LinkedIn. And because I know you mentioned LinkedIn summaries, I myself think it's like one of the number one platforms that career professionals and entrepreneurs should be on. But is it to you one of the most important social media platforms? And how do you think people can best utilize the platform?
Okay. That's a great question. Yes, absolutely. LinkedIn today is one of those platforms that really gives third-party confirmation of the work that you've done. So before it was just your resume and employers would have to guess whether or not you really did these things, that they really provided the value that you're saying. And so now LinkedIn says, yes, not only have they done these things, I can get recommendations from people I worked with. They can actually quantify that these are the skill sets that I bring to the table. And so it's another safe way for people to do that. One thing that has changed over the last, I would say, 5 years is most job applications right now on their websites have a LinkedIn profile listed. And so that just lets you know that they're even looking at LinkedIn to see. And if you check your settings, you can see a lot of times, especially if you're in the job market, that, hey, recruiters have just reviewed my settings. Mm-hmm. I absolutely tell people it's important to do. I also tell people when you start a new job, it's very important to start linking into your coworkers. Ask them, talk to them, ask them, are you on LinkedIn? But within the first 3 to 6 months, you should be linked up to at least the immediate team, your supervisor, and the people that you're working with. Because as you start to move forward and do great things, you want to ask for recommendations. You want them to start confirming the things that you're doing. And that's a great platform to do it in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you said that you've been doing this. Now you're in this, on this entrepreneurial path full time, or are you part-time corporate, part-time in this business?
Yeah, part-time corporate, part-time in this business. Okay. Very quickly, it looks like it's going to be full-time, which is great, but still part-time in corporate America. But that also helps me balance and understand, hey, here's what corporate America is saying, and make that as that evolves, I'm evolving that message to my clients as well.
Absolutely. Okay, and so again, you're still like fresh in this. It looks like you're really excited, really passionate about what you're doing. What have been some of the challenges that you have experienced, if any, in starting your own business?
Oh, yeah, there have been challenges. So one, since I've been doing this for free for so long, people wanting to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So that's been the biggest challenge. I get a lot of people who are like, yes, I want some help. And you're like, okay, well, here's the cost for my different services. I'm like, I have to pay? I'm like, mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, you actually do have to pay money for this because it is taking time, effort, and energy. And instead of just me verbally saying like I did in the past, I actually create documentation. I help people with their resumes. We do mock interviews. I do a lot of stuff. And I was like, all that takes time, effort, and energy, which is going to cost money. So yes, you do need to give me some money. That's been the biggest one. Also, exposure. So there are a lot of people who are like, I'm fine. Well, I don't like my job. I'm not happy in my career, but yet I don't feel like I should do anything about it. And I'm not sure that a career coach would actually help resolve this issue. And so getting people to kind of take a step back and start looking at themselves and valuing themselves enough to say, you don't have to be stuck in a job that you're unhappy with or stuck looking for a job. You can do things differently, and let me help you do things differently. I think those are the two biggest challenges.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people don't think that they have options. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's the job that gives them that perspective, but I think it's so important for them to have confidence, know it is what their value is, and that if they were able to secure that position, they can secure another one.
Exactly.
But people forget that, and it's like they're just like, I don't know any other options. Like this is the only out of the millions of jobs around the world, right? That this is the only one. No. You have many different gifts, talents, that experiences, a breadth of experiences that you have that you can utilize and get a position. I think that's why I think career coaches are needed, because sometimes you need to get outside of yourself. You really can't see.
Yeah.
Or have the right perspective about your situation. You have someone else coming in that can kind of give you some enlightenment and help give you some direction on how to achieve your goals. So I think that that's really good.
That is really a challenge. And the first thing I tell people is you have options. So sometimes like I'll have an Uber driver and they're like, I'm stuck doing Uber. This is the only thing. And as they're talking to me, I'm hearing an intelligent person. I'm hearing all of these wonderful things that are coming out. And I'm like, you have so much talent. Stop discrediting the talent that you have, and let's talk about what you can do. And let's not just say Uber is my only thing. So those are some of the things of really building people's self-esteem. Sometimes I really talk with people who are like, I barely got this job, or I've gotten such negative feedback that I feel like I'm not of value. There's a lot of people who feel like that.
Yeah.
That's where I also start to work with them. So it's been a interesting ride, because I feel bad for some people, and like when they start working with me and I start having those initial conversations, and some people tell me I've been looking for a job for 6 months and I'm just not going to find it. And then as we start to change their perspective, change their approach, change the way that they're operating, and they start getting jobs and multiple job offers, it makes me feel so great. And I want to continue to do that and continue to say, people, hey, I'm here to help. Come on. You can change your life. It's really about you and what you want. And that's not a selfish way of looking at life.
Yes. And let me circle back on the other point that you made about the challenge with pricing, because I know so many people in that position, people struggle with pricing. We're actually going to be having a training later on today. But people start off, you're starting off giving a service because you just love what you do. You love helping people. And a lot of times we start off doing it for free. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to transition, it's like people feel like this intimidated to ask to be paid.
Yeah. Yes.
And then they will keep it, and then when they ask for payment, then they will backtrack, and they go lower and lower and lower till it's free again, because they're like, I feel like if I charge, nobody would get my services. But if you charge nothing, it's not a business. You're not making a living. I mean, you need to
right.
So in your journey to overcome that challenges, were some of the things that you did to make sure that you consistently showed up to make sure that the people that you were serving paid, for the value that you were offering?
So one thing that I had to do, because I got burned a few times, was before I scheduled that first meeting, because everyone will tell you, yes, Kim, absolutely. Right. My meeting, do all the paperwork, do all this other stuff. I need to get paid first. And so let's talk about the pricing. And I'm very upfront about my pricing. So I'm like, hey, if this is a service that you want, this is the cost it's going to be. And as soon as you submit that payment, I will schedule your first meeting and I will start doing the work, because there's a lot of work that I have to do before we start meeting in order to have that be a very beneficial meeting for both of us. So in the past, I would just ask people and cross my fingers and hope they paid me. And after a couple people didn't pay, I was like, I gotta get my money first, and start falling out like, oh, well, I did want your help, but I don't have enough to pay you. Well, when you can, come back.
Yes, absolutely.
And then I also, so some career coaches are very, very, very expensive. They're thousands of dollars to work with. And I also don't think that's very fair. I'm asking people, especially if you want to succeed and survive and start breaking that glass is at a different level for everyone. So if I'm charging thousands of dollars and you don't have a job, you will never be able to.
Right.
And so when I work with people, they're like, how are you so cheap? I'm so cheap because I rather work with more people and help more people change their lives than work with fewer people and get more money. Mm-hmm. Still need to get paid, but I would rather work with more and really help that. And so those are some of the reasons why, I have my pricing model. So for instance, I work with a lot of college students who are trying to get into that next market. And so I offer interview prep for $49. And so I help them, send me your resume. What we'll do is I'll ask you, tell me the type of position you're going for, and I will do some research on that position. I will tell you about, I will give you some tips after the interview, and we'll go over both interviews about that position specifically and then behavioral-based interview questions. And I'll give them do that. And so I have a lot of people who are going from college into the workforce who are like, yes, I do that. Because it's perfect for them. It's 60 minutes, so they know it's a specific time frame, but they know, hey, this is what I'm going to get. And if they want to use more of my services, now they're like, okay, Kim, that was great. I want to know X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely. I think that's so good because that's actually a good niche as well, because with college students, there is such a big need, you know, because a lot of times, you know, they've gone through the education, but they don't know all the ins and outs of putting together a resume, of what to do in the interview. They may have changed their major a few times, trying to figure out what career path to take, what's going to be the best. So I think that that's like fantastic that you're there to serve that need, because I know it's a need out there. You know, because I work with college students and I've had interns and gone to internship conferences at the colleges and things like that. So I know that that's definitely a need that they have. And it's great that too that you know your target audience. So when you're pricing, you need to know who you're pricing for.
Yes, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. And there are some people like, you know, I do, especially on the corporate side that I'm still doing, I work with a lot of executives and, you know, they have very different needs. They're like, I need to work on my executive bio. I need a resume built like this. Okay, we're going to talk. That's different than what my standard pricing is. And so from an entrepreneur perspective, having flexibility in the program and understanding who my core target audience is, but then who also I can help. Those are some things that have been really, really important for me.
Good, because I always tell entrepreneurs out there that a lot of times they don't think about update. I said, do you have a resume that reflects that you're a business owner, that you're a CEO? You know, do you have your LinkedIn summary?
Right. Does LinkedIn show it?
Right. Does it reflect, you know, every new project or client you take on? Are you updating that? You're updating your portfolio? So do you have a bio?
Right.
I ask for bios, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't have a bio.
Wow. Yeah. One thing I also suggest for entrepreneurs, you need to have a website, and that website needs to be updated, and not a page or two, but it really needs to reflect all of the things that you're doing. So like my website, I actually have free videos on there about tips and tricks. I blog a lot. And so there's blogs on there. There's a lot of stuff. So if you have questions about what she's going to do, then it's there. A lot of people have one page. And so I've worked with people too, and they're like, well, you know, I have my own business, it's not working on. And I kind of talk to them like, what's that other business that you have? And I see a little tiny page. I'm like, okay, let's spend a little bit more time on this too. Like a whole package. And especially as we're building our brand, I have a lot of clients who do marketing, and they're struggling trying to get marketing positions. And I look at their one-page website and I'm like, okay, how are you marketing yourself? Because if I'm going to pay you a lot of money, especially if you want 6 figures to do marketing for me, and I see that you don't market yourself and you're not putting this much effort and energy into you, I'm not going to pay you this much money. I'm going to look for somebody else.
I'm glad you said that, because people look at that. They really do.
Yes.
It's like, and I said this the other day, it's like telling somebody that you create websites, but you don't have one.
Right. Yes.
So you have no website that I can look at to see what services and offers you have, but you say you design websites. So you should be the first one to have one designed that I can go look at, right?
Exactly. And like when I'm talking, so I speak at a lot of colleges as well. So when I'm speaking at colleges, and especially to different people, I'm like, okay, if you are marketing, I need to see a website. If you're in sales, I need you to tell me how many sales that you've had, and talk about the products that you've had, and tell me about some milestones that you've accomplished. Like, I need to hear that so I can see that you are going to be a good person for my organization.
Yes, absolutely. So I think we just had a conversation the other day about what people had on their website. So I think more than 50% of entrepreneurs and business owners don't even have a website. So I'm always pushing that, because you're losing out on a lot of business, because most people, the first thing they want to know is, do you have a website? That's where they're going.
Yes, exactly.
Your services, if you're a legitimate company, and people don't want to go through hoops to figure out what you do, and what services that you offer. So that's really good information. And having your blog, your newsletter, all of those things help people. They engage people, attract people to your site, and want them to puts them in a position to want more. And it also helps with your search engine optimization. So everybody should have that website hub. If you don't, and there are affordable options out there. So really, there's no excuse not to have a website, because you can.
Yes.
And it not cost you thousands of dollars to get one.
Absolutely. And so all of these things are factors in your overall presence and your overall package. That's what I try to get people to understand. Like, if you can't explain to me your package, no one else will. No job. So I tell people right now, the average resume gets looked at for 30 seconds. You've put all of your effort only into your resume, and it's only getting looked at for 30 seconds. Do you understand that you've discredited yourself? And I was like, so that 30 seconds is not with the person either. It's actually through a machine, and it's looking for keywords that need to match that job description. And so if you're like, well, they should know based on my job description that I'm a good match, that methodology and thought process is not going to get you a job today.
Yes.
This is where, especially some people who feel like they're facing age discrimination, when we start talking to them about this, or give yourself some options. So I've also had people who say, well, I want this one job at this one place, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, what if that one job in that one place is filled? What else are you going to do? There are other jobs, similar jobs, and maybe a better job for you that does similar things in another organization. Are you going to be open enough to start looking into those other organizations? Or when we start factoring in their personality and the type of environment that they want, like, hey, then what you're saying is a very traditional Fortune 100 type company. Let's apply for that, because I'm looking at you applying for these startup companies and you're wondering why. It's a rub. And so just really getting people to understand, you got to know what you want, and you have to be flexible and open, because that one job that's going to open up in 5 years is not the way that the world is operating today.
Yeah. So be flexible and know what you want. And so when you're searching for opportunities, you keep those things in mind. So that's, you had talked about, the importance of connecting with people that you work with. And I think that that's a great recommendation. So let's talk about making connections and networking. What your strategy has been for networking, and if you think it's important for us as entrepreneurs and business owners to network in order to build our brand and to grow our businesses.
It is critical to network, and not only network in the organization that you work with. So I'm in Southern California. Southern California has a lot of networking events after work, and I go myself and I network and I promote my business. But I also tell people who are looking for a job, I'm like, hey, tonight in Orange County, there's a networking event. You are looking for a job. You need to go to this networking event, and there's specialized ones. So like meetup.com, anything you want, anything you're looking for, they have a specialized subgroup for it. And so I also tell people, I'm like, go to Meetup, go start finding people. And the more that you integrate and start saying, hey, this is where I am, it works for people. So it's really interesting to kind of see people say, well, I can't network, I can't socialize. You can't. It's just not in the organization. It's just not your friends. You got to start stepping out of your box and stepping out of your comfort zone and start really understanding how the world is operating right now. Or social media. Get involved in some social media groups. So like in IT, there's a lot of people who do agile or do specialized things. And I'm like, hey, are you in any social media groups that talk about that? And they're like, no. I'm like, and do you go to any meetup groups? No. And you still haven't found a job? Nope. Okay. Well, let's see how all of these things also add together.
Yes. Yes. So groups are so important. So I'm glad that you said that. So whether it's Meetup, whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn, most of these social sites have groups, and they're tailored to specific interests.
Yes,
I would say. So whether you are, again, I hear a lot of excuses people make. I'm an introvert. I'm shy. I don't like this. I'm not into that. Find the people that are into what you're into, to start connecting with people, and making those connections, getting into those groups, see what's going on. And it can provide a lot of information and resource. Like, people know things that maybe you didn't know. Start asking questions. I do that all the time, and you'll be surprised what you find out, or even who people know.
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh, like, you didn't even know you connected to this person. They know somebody that you need to connect with, or they know somebody that you know. And so then that helps build the relationship, makes that connection. They're like, oh, since just because you're connected to somebody that they know, like, and trust, they want to connect with you. They want to offer you a job. They want to give you an opportunity. They want to work with you as a client. So don't take making connections and networking lightly, because I think it's one of the most important things that you can do in your business if you want to grow your business.
Absolutely. I think these are things that are so critical. And from a career perspective, part of the career now. And that's, I think, where the biggest gap is. So people, especially college students coming in, hey, I just Googled you and your social media profile showed me a bunch of stuff. Got to understand what that is and what you need to do. Or people who are on the tail end of their career or late in their career, really understanding we have to start understanding I got to operate differently to get a job. And that means I have to change. And change is hard for people to understand, to absorb, but you have to do it to get the goals that you want to accomplish.
Absolutely. And if you don't know how, you connect with the who, right? And Kymberlee would be one of those who's. She's a career coach. So if you don't know how to do it, there's someone that can help you achieve your goals. So that brings me to my next topic is mentorship and coaching. Have you had mentorship in your business? So I know you served as a mentor. Have you had that for yourself? And do you think it's important as an entrepreneur to have a mentor or a coach in your business?
Yes, I've actually, I think the most important things in my career have been two executive women who took time aside to mentor me. And they were like, hey, I know that you are struggling right now with getting acceptance, especially in IT. I'll give you an example. I was in a meeting with all executive men, being the only female. And I said, hey, we need to do X. And it was silent. And then literally 2 minutes later, a male colleague of mine repeated what I said. And they're like, that is awesome. Yes, we should do what he just said. And so as being a youngster in that career, I was just appalled and shocked. And I didn't know what to do. I wanted to stand up and flip the table and be like, what? I did that? You guys aren't listening to me? And I talked with one of my female mentors, and she was a very high executive. And she took the time and she was like, let me explain to you. Yes, this is going to happen. Here's what you need to do differently. One, you need to go talk to that person and tell them like, hey, thank you for, I see that you agreed with my idea. Thank you for doing that. How can we work together? Because, I have all the insight in that idea that you just shared in that meeting. And then she said, you got to start sticking up for yourself. And so, of course, this happened again. And in the future meeting, I said, thank you for collaborating on my idea, so-and-so. Yes, I really think, and here's why I think this is good. And so started changing that. I mean, that was such a game changer for me. And it allowed me to not look like, oh, the bitter woman who gets angry and flips the table, but hey, she's going to collaborate and she's also going to not let us step on her toes. Mm-hmm. So mentorship perspective, I really value that. And so there's been women and even men who come to me from a career perspective and like, hey, can you just mentor me? I am trying to move up in my career. I want to become a leader, or I want to open my own business. What have you seen? What can we do? And that's something, again, that I really love to value and really love to help people with.
I like that. That's good. I wanted to talk a little bit about what you just said and some things you had mentioned earlier, and specifically about women, because that example that you just gave about your experience in the workplace, showing up as a woman, you mentioned that oftentimes you're the only woman at the table. I just mentioned the other day how I was in a boardroom full of men, and often I'm the only woman and only Black woman.
Oh, of course, I'm a woman of color.
And so there's some challenges that come with that. And we know, like you said, women sometimes are in a position, they don't ask for what they want. They're a little shy and timid, not as confident, because a lot of times you deal with these types of things in the workplace, and that kind of silence women. So helping women to really have confidence, build up their confidence, and have a voice, no matter where they are, whether they're in corporate America or they're entrepreneur, business owner, trying to negotiate deals, because we have a hard time negotiating.
Yes.
Okay. But from your perspective, like you said, you just went through that. What advice would you give for women to help them build up their confidence and make sure that they're showing up and using their voice and not silencing themselves when confronted with these types of issues?
I would say that you deserve a place at that table first and foremost. Just because you're the only woman or the only woman of color or the only person of color does not negate the fact that you deserve to be there and you bring as much value to that seat as everyone else does. That's the first thing that we have to be comfortable with as women and people of color. You got to believe that, because if you don't believe that, nothing else is going to work. And then once you believe that, too, you have to speak up for yourself. You have to speak up for your teams. You have to, once you're at that table, you got to actively participate there. Because I've seen meetings where I've worked with some clients who are silent at the meetings. And they're like, well, I had these thoughts. And I'm like, if you don't spring those thoughts, you're not going to be invited back. And they're going to say, well, so-and-so doesn't really need to be here. And then you are going to lose out on making key decisions and influencing change. So believe that you belong there. When you're there, actively participate and then seek feedback. That's the other hard thing for people. Hey, how'd that go? Do you have any questions? What do you think about that? What do you think about my idea? That's very, very hard, because it means you have to be vulnerable and open for people's feedback. Now, everyone's feedback is not 100%. You got to take it with some context, but you got to seek it. So those are the three major things that I would tell women and people of color. You got to play by these rules for you to start to achieve the goals that you want.
Now, with us talking about having a seat at the table, and that's great, how important do you think it is for people of color and women that often don't have a presence at these tables? How important is it for us, that us being at the table, to help us bring other women, create opportunities, create tables for other women and other minorities?
It's critical. So like, as I keep on moving in my career, I look for younger women of color, and I ask them if, like, what are your career aspirations? And so I've had one of my old coworkers, she became a manager, and she was just like, ooh, Kim, this is a little difficult. Yeah, it's difficult, but let's talk why it's difficult and what we can do to move past that so you can have a seat at that table, and then start looking for other people that you can start to pull up and continue to pull up. Just like people did for me, I'm going to do for you. And that circle will start to break that glass universally across the board. So instead of you being the only one at the table, hey, there's two of us at the table. And there's three of us at the table. Oh my gosh, we're making progress. And
yeah.
slowly over time, it starts to evolve and starts to change. But it has to be like, one, you got to be there. And if you are earning your seat at that table, you can't bring anybody else up with you. Absolutely.
So get the seat at the table and bring other women, other people with you. I'm always for collaboration and partnerships and working together, because we can achieve a lot more together than we can by ourselves.
Yes.
So that's really important for all of you guys that are listening out there. So Kymberlee, I wanted to ask you, what has been your greatest success in your business thus far?
My greatest success has been when someone tells me that they've been looking for a job for X number of months and they found one and they love it. That has happened over and over again, but I can't tell you how it makes me feel, because it means that, yes, Kim, what you did was valuable, and look, their life is different now. And now they see that they're valuable. And now that they see that they're bringing light to the world. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't believe in themselves and have low self-confidence. And just to hear that confidence build up, that is the most rewarding thing to me. And so each time someone's like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, it just melts my heart and makes me realize, hey, I'm making a difference in people's lives and continue on this path.
That's excellent, because wins build confidence.
Yes.
So that's why I tell people, don't celebrate just when you think it's a big win. You know, every step, every milestone, I encourage people to celebrate, because we're so quick to criticize ourselves. We're so hard on ourselves. So how important do you think it is for us as entrepreneurs to celebrate ourselves and celebrate our wins and the milestones that we're achieving through our journey?
It is extremely important, because just like I tell clients, you got to love yourself first. You got to believe in yourself first. And if you're not celebrating those wins and acknowledging those wins, then you're not.
Yes. So believe in yourself. I love that. Believe in yourself first and celebrate your wins. So what tips would you offer our audience, like 2 or 3 tips for what they need to be successful in their business?
One, you have options. So look at the different options. They might not be readily apparent to you, but take a step back and really look at the landscape that you're trying to accomplish and understand that there's options available to you. Number 2, fail fast. Understand, if you fail, get up, dust yourself off, get back up, fail fast, and try something new. And I think the third and most important thing is believe in yourself and believe what you're doing is powerful and making a difference.
I love that. Believe in yourself. Let me put that up on the screen. That's so important.
It is.
We want other people to believe in us, and we don't believe in ourselves.
I know. And you say it and people are like, oh, I do. And then you start asking, you're like,
They really don't. Yeah.
They really don't.
They really don't. So that is so important. So believe in yourself, because you have so much to offer the world. You have so many gifts. So use those, believe in it, and put those out, share them with the world. Like, be visible.
Yes, absolutely.
Someone had said the other day, like, and I think this is true sometimes, we will share other people's things, like their wins or their business, but we won't share our own. So it's like a lack of confidence, a lack of belief, that we don't even put our own stuff out there. We're selling other people's stuff and we won't sell our own.
Well, a lot of women, and especially a lot of women of color, have been taught over the years it's selfish to promote their own self. And so they are taught that I'm being selfish, I'm being arrogant, and I'm being conceited if I promote myself over others. And that's where you gotta take a step back and say, it's not. In this day and age, especially when you're talking about your career, you are not selfish talking about what you brought to the table. So it's just really changing years and years and years of mindset and culture to start doing things differently and looking at yourself differently and speaking about yourself differently.
Yeah, so that mindset shift. I think all of us need to go through it at one point or another, like in our entrepreneurship journey. I talk about that a lot, is that mindset and getting rid of those limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves that are just untrue. So, make those assessments, about what it is who you are, what do you have to offer, what your gifts are, and offer them to the world, show up in the world. So Kymberlee, I thank you so much for being here with us on the Biz Talk Live show. I have one more question for you.
Sure, thank you.
So I asked this question of all of my guests. If you had a magic wand and you could change anything in the world, what would it be?
I would change people's lack of equality, the thought that everyone is not equal. I would change that instantly. From discrimination to sexism to racism to ageism, I would change that.
Wonderful.
Look the same, talk the same, but whatever it needs to happen, that's what I would do.
And that would provide equal opportunities for all.
Yes, absolutely.
Equal opportunities.
Then you wouldn't have to start questioning yourself because I'm a woman or because I'm Black or because of my age or because I'm this, that would eliminate those questions. Totally. That's what I would do.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Kymberlee Page, for being here with us on the show. Can you remind our audience about your business and where they can contact you?
Yes. So my business is called Breaking the Glass LLC. And if you want to visit our website, you can go to https://breakingtheglass.info, all one word, .info. I also have Facebook groups and Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. So if you look at Break the Glass, you will see me. We have a little green symbol that shows people walking up the stairs. So I look forward to hearing from you and hearing what you need to do in your career and how I can help.
Yes, so we're breaking glass ceilings, you guys. And so we again appreciate you, Kymberlee Page, for being on, for sharing your entrepreneurship story, for sharing your gifts with us and all the wonderful wisdom that you have shared to help our business owners and entrepreneurs really get to the place where they're pursuing their purpose. Pursuing their purpose and going after all of their dreams. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you so much for tuning in. Please join us next week. We broadcast every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have openings in August. So if you have your own entrepreneur story that you would like to share with us, we invite you to apply online at our website, which is www.intuitiveriskmanagement.com. We also have sponsorship openings available where you get a banner, you get your own promo post, you get a live mention on air. So we invite you to apply for that as well. So again, thank you for tuning in. If you come in after the live, please comment #replay. And our guest, Kymberlee Page, will leave all her contact information in the comments for you all to access after the show if you need a career coach, okay? So until next week, you guys have a great day and continue to pursue your dreams. Bye.
Bye.